Hello and welcome to the OKPreps Extra Show. I'm Patrick Prince, joined as always by Barry Lewis. Very good to be with you on a Friday afternoon. We've had 15 hours or so since you and I saw Bixby defeat Owasso in the Battle of the Burbs at Chapman Stadium. Final score was 49-21. Before we get into that, though, as a lifelong follower of Dallas Cowboys football, how do you feel about Micah Parsons being traded to the Packers?
I'm feeling okay about it. It wasn't heartbreaking to me at all. Unlike most of the national media, I don't think it's a disaster for Dallas. Yes, in a perfect world, we would have liked to have kept Micah Parsons in Dallas. But that being said, for the price tag that that it would cost you, that in for a player who hasn't really been the best in big games, um, and who had become an increasing headache going into this season. I think there are a lot of positives about that trade for Dallas yesterday because not only with the week before the season opener, you get rid of the big distraction, one way or the other, whether it's good or bad, it's gone now. You move on. If you get in return the two first round draft choices and you get a player, Kenny Clark, a defensive tackle, who, if he just does what he's done over the last 8 seasons or so, 8 or 9 seasons, that's a really nice addition for Dallas. Yes, Micah's a generational talent. Would have been great to keep him, but at some point, Dallas, you can't keep everybody under the cap. And so to keep someone like a Tyler Smith down the line, who I think has a chance to be one of the all-time really great offensive lineman in his fourth year from Tulsa. He's been in the Pro Bowl the last 2 years. I don't think you could keep like Tyler Smith and a Micah Parsons. And with Micah, there's a lot of baggage. And as I said, he didn't. He's great in September and October. Well, he wasn't around last October because he was hurt, but he seems like he's a player who's better early in the season than later in the season. And so I don't think it's as disastrous a deal for Dallas as most in the national media portray it to be.
Okay. All right, let's get into Bixby Owasso. Let me get your reaction to this, Barry. Even from the first quarter when it was still, a tight game, even when it was 0-0, I just didn't quite feel that Owasso matched Bixby's energy. And I'll say that even maybe from a crowd perspective as well as a sideline perspective. I just didn't quite feel it from the Owasso side of things. Now, I was sitting outside, you were in the press box. Is that something you got a sense of at all?
It seemed that way. I would agree with you, Patrick. It was officially a Bixby home game, but it really should have it was really a neutral game because the teams had to travel pretty much the same distance. It should have been pretty well split 50-50 as far as the energy and enthusiasm. And you would have thought that Owasso, because they're the team that you would have thought they would have been itching for this rematch.
Yeah.
The fans, the players, everything, because they lost the state championship on the last play of last season to Bixby. So you would think they would have been fired up even more so to get revenge. But instead, the Bixby fans just there were a lot more Bixby fans there than Owasso fans. And Owasso usually travels well to the Battle of the Burbs. So I don't know what the problem was last night, why Owasso didn't bring as many fans as it often does. And yes, there just seemed to be more energy from the Bixby crowd, the Bixby sideline. And it's hard to understand why, because you would have thought it would have been the other way around because it was Owasso should have been wanting revenge. And then the way the game started, too, I think may have contributed that or magnified that because if Owasso starts off really
Yeah.
well,
Yep.
15 play drive to open the game, that's how you would script it. And then they come away with no points. That had to be very deflating from a Bixby standpoint, from an Owasso standpoint, and then Bixby, of course, as it often does, they just come out and score real quick. Boom. 2 or 3 minutes later, they've got a touchdown, and then all of a sudden, really quick, it's 28-0 Bixby. And from an Owasso standpoint, when you're down 28-0, it's really hard to get revved up when you're at a 28-0 hole. And although to give Owasso credit that they played hard the rest of the game, they just didn't like throw in the towel. Uh, they played a respectable last 3 quarters, or almost last 3 quarters, once they got down 28-0. But you can't get down 28-0 against Bixby.
Yeah. You wrote a little bit about this in today's paper. How did you think Jason Mole looked in his Bixby debut? Bixby's kind of loaded anyway, but they added some reinforcements. They seem even more loaded than normal.
Yes, that's a great addition for Bixby. When you add in a proven 1,000 yard rusher at the 6A1 level, I mean that's a big get for you. And Jason Mole had a, I mean, if Bixby had lacked anything in the last couple of years, is that really breakaway threat in the backfield. Although I think they would have had one anyway this year with B.J. Jones, who was a freshman last year. We got a glimpse of him last year, made a huge play in the championship game, and he made some nice runs last night. But to have a senior like Jason Mole come over from Owasso, who's proven, and we saw last night why he's racked up a lot of yards over the last 2 years with Owasso. And yeah, he looks like he fits in real very nicely with the Spartans. And yes, if their offense had been missing anything the last 2 years, it was a back like that, and now they've got him, and so Bixby's just loaded everywhere.
If you're a Owasso, where do you go from here?
No time to feel sorry for yourself because they host Jenks next Friday, so they've got to come back and get focused on Jenks because obviously that's not going to be an easy task. That's a number second ranked team against the third ranked team. Yeah, you just come from playing the number one ranked team, and now next week it's the number three ranked team. So that will be a challenge for Owasso, but Owasso is going to be okay. It's not time to panic because we've seen this before. Bixby has pounded Owasso in the Battle of the Burbs in 2022 and 2023, and those seasons turned out just fine for Owasso. They didn't win a state championship those times because Bixby's been winning all the state titles lately. But Owasso had really good seasons in each of those seasons. They bounced back. Last night's game, as I wrote in my game story that you can find online at OKPrepsExtra.com, and we revised the game story after the print version, that the game reminded me of the 2023 Battle of the Burbs, including Owasso's Jaden Hall scoring the last touchdown in each of those games. So his games basically were Bixby's just pounded Owasso early, and then Owasso finished strong against Bixby's reserves, but you still got to play out the game, and Owasso seasons in each of those cases turned out just fine. So no time to panic for Owasso. They're still a really good team, but I think last night was more about Bixby being really, really good than Owasso not being good.
That's a fair point. How did Drew Frankenfield look to you?
Well, it was definitely not one of his better nights, although he had some good moments, like the first drive of the game,
Yeah.
made some really nice throws on third down. It seemed like they were trying to pass the ball downfield a little bit more than last year. Of course, he had such a high completion percentage last year, 77%. That's really eye-popping. It's really going
It's
to be
really
hard to
good.
duplicate that. And but it also seemed last year, especially when they had some injuries in the receiving core, that they were throwing a lot of high percentage passes last year. He's going to be accurate anyway, but I think some of that 77% was because they were throwing high percentage passes. It seemed like they were trying to get the ball downfield, take and him being a junior, putting more on his plate, having him take some more challenging throws. And he came up, he made, as I said, he made some really good third down throws last night on third and long and on the first drive. And then the offense got in a rut. They went three and out like four straight times after that. But then at the end of the half, had some good. They had some good drives too. One of them scored at a touchdown. But 16 out of 34 is not your typical. Going to be your typical Drew Frankenfield game. So, but again, I credit the Bixby defense a lot for that. Bixby's defense has at least four Power Four recruits on the defense. So that's saying a lot, even at 6A at the 6A1 level. And I think Owasso's offensive line, which is good, it's going to get even better. They have the challenge replacing after having graduated two Power Four players off the O line. And I think you saw some nerves on that opening drive. Maybe the opening drive ends with a touchdown instead of a missed field goal attempt if they don't have four motion penalties.
Yeah.
And that's something you can't do against a team like Bixby. And that's something that you can clean up. And I expect they will get that fixed.
Tell us about the Bill Knight Player of the Week. That starts next week, yes?
Yes, we'll have it for all sports, not just football. Of course, look in Sunday's Tulsa World print editions as well as OKPrepsExtra.com for our week zeros, eight candidates for the Bill Knight Automotive Football Player of the Week. And you can vote on those until around midday Tuesday. We don't have the exact time set on that. It's probably be around the noon hour on Tuesday. Maybe we'll get this week. Maybe we'll give a couple more hours due to Labor Day being Labor Day weekend, and so fans can make their selection for the Bill Knight Player of the Week, and we'll make our selection too. And we'd like to remind the coaches, encourage them to send in their nominations to me every week for the Football Player of the Week by 4 p.m. Saturday. Even if you don't have your exact stats figured out, just send me a note at barry.lewis@tulsaworld.com and say, hey, I've got this really a great nominee for you and don't have his exact stats figured out, but at least give me some idea what he did. And we get the exact stats figured out later. And just because we want to have the best candidates out there for the Football Player of the Week. And as far as the other sports, being cross country, volleyball, and softball, send those to me as well. Get those into me. Of course, the earlier the better, but by noon on Monday for sure. And so, because we're going to start naming players of the week in those sports as well. So send your nominations in to me, barry.lewis@tulsaworld.com.
You and I are taping this on a Friday afternoon. Normally, we wouldn't be taping on a Friday, but we are this week. Tell us where you will be tonight.
I'll be at the Battle of the Halls, Cassia Hall at Holland Hall. And where are you going to be, Patrick?
Well, I was thinking about going to that game as well, Barry, but I'm really leaning toward Muskogee Booker T. Um, I'm just really interested to see how two prominent programs, how each of them do with new head coaches. So that's where I might be. So you can catch all of our coverage from tonight and during the week at OKPrepsExtra.com. We appreciate you joining us. Barry and I will be back next week.